Yeah, he's not, he's
No, it's not. In what year were the three men? Dave. In what year?
What was that? And what led up to it? You see, my wife, Sherry, my friend Felipe, and I were involved in an interview with Channel 7's current affairs program, Spotlight, and we ended up walking out of it. In fact, I wouldn't even really call it an interview. It was a little bit more like a stoning. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of the things that led up to that walkout. You see, I worked as a journalist for a few years before I started living by faith. And as a journalist, I understand the problems that they face. But essentially, the job of a journalist is to ask questions, intelligent questions. And when there's a disagreement, the journalist has a responsibility to present both sides and pay a special attention to the evidence that exists on either side. Now remember that word evidence, because it's going to be mentioned quite a few times in this video. It's fair enough for the media to report an accusation that doesn't have evidence, but they need to put it into context. Now, let's say, for example, I tell the media that my friend down the street is making nuclear weapons in his garage. Well, that's an interesting and fairly sensational thing for me to be saying. And so they run down there and find out that there are no weapons being made in that garage. In fact, there's nothing going on at all. Now, they may just choose to drop the story at that stage, but if they're going to continue with the story, okay, the place the spotlight needs to be aimed is at me for having made such accusations without any evidence. What is the story behind the story? That's what a good investigative journalist would do. So whenever Liam Bartlett would make an accusation or tell us about something someone had alleged that we'd done, either Cherry or Felipe or myself would demand that he show us some evidence. And each time we would do that, he just changed the subject. He had nothing, no evidence at all. But he did, at a couple of points, say that he was going to surprise us when Channel 7 released their story to the public. Now, even if they had evidence and they did it that way, that's not only unethical, I think it's actually illegal to not give us a right of reply. To just go out there and sort of defame us without us being able to respond to whatever it is he thinks he has as evidence. Unfortunately, responsible journalism today is becoming increasingly rare. Media moguls have turned many interviews into a blood sport. They set up ambushes, take sides, even join in the battle personally by throwing as many rocks as they can at the person being interviewed. They rarely allow the interviewee opportunity to do more than just run or shout out in pain as the stoning progresses. If they can't find someone with a big enough rock to kill the victim, well, the media just sometimes invents their own lies in order to sensationalize the stoning even more and totally destroy the victim's reputation. When this sort of thing happens, the person who's being attacked really has little choice but to run away. And so eventually, you'll see it a lot of times on TV, the person being interviewed gets up and says, "I'm finished with this," and they walk out. And of course, that's when the media invariably says, "What are you afraid of? What have you got to hide?" And sometimes they do have things to hide. In our case, we didn't. Okay? But Channel 7 had things to hide. And fortunately for us, we had some of our own footage of that interview. It's pretty rough, but it shows you what Channel 7 hides when they present their side of the interview. And we're going to show you a lot of that in this video right now. Now, a little bit of background here. My wife, Cherry, and I, we're co-founders of a network of Christian communities that are around the world in 5 continents. Felipe, he's the present world leader of that movement. Liam Bartlett, well, he's a reporter for Channel 7. He's most famous at the moment for having done the interview with Bruce Lehrman, this infamous interview that apparently was secured by Channel 7 buying cocaine, or at least giving Bruce Lehrman money for cocaine and prostitutes, in exchange also for Lehrman giving Channel 7 some illegal documents that were protected by law and by the courts. But anyway, let's get on our own interview. The interview starts out with Liam asking what, on the surface may appear to be quite an innocent question.
When's the last time that you worked for money? Can you remember?
I'm not sure what the question's leading to.
Don't look for things behind every rock.
Behind every rock. That's an ironic choice of words coming from Liam. As the interview progressed, it appeared that the interview was all about rocks, finding rocks to throw at us. Liam feigned innocence, but then immediately followed this opening question up with a gross misrepresentation of the facts. He had no evidence for his false assumption, but he threw this relatively small rock anyway, apparently hoping to see if he could create some damage by inference. Listen.
Oh, just
I'm not sure the significance of that. I haven't for over 30 years felt I need money, even though.
Is that because all of your followers are sort of fanning out, getting the donations and getting the bits and pieces to bring back for you?
That goes back.
So, what did Liam just do? He tried to slap a stereotype on me as being someone who exploits a whole lot of followers to get rich. And we're famous for the fact that we're all poor. We're a Christian community where nobody works in a job for money, where we share everything equally. I have to say, the richest person in this community because I have an old age pension. But that old age pension, because of our common purse, belongs to everyone in the community. And so we all enjoy the same standard of living. So had I been unjustifiably looking behind the rocks? Not at all. I found Liam picking the rock up to hurl it at me. And now I'm turning the spotlight on what he continued to do as the interview progressed. I'm only doing here what Channel 7 claims to be doing. I'm just turning a light on his lies. Liam Bartlett had been, in fact, leading up to a false accusation with that supposedly innocent question. And so the stoning began.
I want to say that the idea of these, like, the stereotype of all these, like, followers getting money so that the leader can actually it's like a caricature of the typical cult thing. It has absolutely nothing to do.
Who mentioned the word cult?
Liam cleverly does two things here. First, he deflects the focus away from his misrepresentation of how we handle our funds, and then he takes Felipe's description of what Liam himself was doing and tries to pretend that that's an open door now for him to call me an evil cult leader because Felipe used the word cult. But that was there in the implication from the start.
I haven't mentioned it.
I'm just saying.
No, that's the record though. He's the first one to bring up the word cult.
I think you should shake something. Did you let it in?
I'm just saying that the idea that there are all these followers making money to give to the leader, supposedly, and in this case, the implications that we give today is totally false. It has no relation to how we live. But I
know it's true. You would say that because you're now the acting world leader.
Liam does it again. He's expert at changing the subject, shifting the goalposts, confusing the issues, and he does it here by using 5 very simple words. Even if it was true. In just 5 words, he dismisses his own dishonesty, as though it doesn't matter whether his inferences are true or not. The important thing is that we must be stoned. Even if the rock he is hurling is undeserved, it more or less becomes deserved. And why is it deserved? Because, well, you can't trust the leader of the Jesus Christians. And this is a pattern that happens throughout the whole cult-busting mentality, is you start by labeling a group a cult, and then you follow that up by saying, you can't believe anything they say anyway, so don't listen to them. Always, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. And that's what he's saying in this interview. This kind of reasoning that it's okay for the lynch mob to hang you because you have no rights may sound reasonable and logical in the minds of some people, but Felipe speaks with such simplicity that it's like a member of the public stepping up and flashing a camera in the face of the would-be character assassin.
But it's not true. What evidence do you have any evidence? Has any ex-member ever said that money goes today?
I didn't ask that question.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah.
You've done your research, you've been on this story for months. Have you
Let's keep the questions going, or we'll find out later.
So just like that, with the stone knocked out of his hand, Liam bends over and picks up another one. See, what really matters in this exchange is that Liam raised several rather damning accusations against me without a shred of evidence. And then he ducked for cover each time we asked for evidence. That kind of behavior is just not good journalism, and it's not even legal as far as I understand.
Dave, one of the other things that is this group is known for is the kidney donation.
That's right.
How many followers do you think you have convinced to donate a kidney?
I don't convince anybody. People decide if they want to donate a kidney.
Let me give viewers some background information. More than 20 years ago, a few of us Jesus Christians donated kidneys to people who were suffering from end-stage kidney failure. The donations were all made through reputable hospitals who did their research, had us interviewed by psychologists, made sure that no money was changing hands, made sure that nobody was being pressured or anything. And the media, even the media, covered some of this. And they would go around and ask questions and search to see if they could find any grounds for suspecting us of anything, sus. And they found nothing. There was no evidence. People have left the community. Nobody has ever complained who's donated a kidney. Over the years, other Jesus Christians have also donated kidneys, and no one has so far been able to do anything more than just kind of imply that something might be bad going on secretly in the background. Now, here's a little clip from Channel 7, what they did years ago about some of these kidney donations in an effort to just insult us. Listen and see if they've got any evidence. And you realize how pathetic their whole argument is.
He believes that this is the expression of Christianity, then he's got it wrong. And it just makes him look really, in some ways, pathetic.
But back to the stoning. Something a lynch mob cannot tolerate is anyone trying to slow them down in their attack. Listen as Liam freaks out over my wife contributing to the interview.
Followers have donated a kidney.
Yeah, I have lost count. Over 30.
Over 30?
I think it might be a little bit less.
You reckon?
Yeah, late 20s, I think high 20s maybe. I can't remember exactly. Probably between 23 and 27.
Sorry.
That's a big thing to do, isn't it? Donate a kidney.
It is.
Why? Sorry, Liz, you're going to have to be quiet unless Dave wants some sort of...
I'm supporting what they're saying.
Yes, but I'm interviewing you, Dave.
Yeah, I think very good against other ones.
I don't think
Not just an interview.
you said you wanted them to be this in case you misremembered something. So that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine for clarification. But the interview was with you, Dave.
Sure, it is, but we were told something different by Channel 7. So,
No.
yes,
I'm happy for Dave to share.
Listen, you really want me to get up and walk out? Can I say what you push for?
Let's not use a petty thing on this as an excuse for you to walk out.
I'm here, my wife here, and I have the leader of the community.
And that's fine. That's fine if you'd like to do
You said
that.
right.
No, I don't want...
He was the donator, he wasn't a bystander.
If you allow the interview to keep going, they can explain it to each other.
You have to ask yourself if Channel 7 has ever done an interview with more than one person present. What was Liam afraid of? If you think of this as an assassination attempt, it makes sense that they should block even the slightest support for the target. And so Liam was kind of approaching this as though, it was something evil on our part that my wife should be present or that Felipe should be present. So to him, it doesn't matter that this little old lady is kind of shaking in his boots. He feels he's been hard done by because I allowed my wife to be there and I allowed her to speak. And that's the kind of situation we were dealing with.
They said, before we start, okay, they said,
I'm asking you the questions. We're doing it.
I don't care. If I choose to let someone else answer the question for me later, you're just going to have to wear it.
So you want total control over everything.
Absolutely.
If we continue with the stoning analogy, you have to ask yourself, who must have ultimate control for stoning to succeed? It's the one that's throwing the stones, isn't it? It was Liam who wanted total control. Now, in a real interview, the person asking the question can have total control over the questions they ask, but the person answering the question needs to have total control over how they answer that question. And Liam wasn't ready for that.
Who's going to control this interview?
Yes,
You.
exactly.
You or me?
Well, I'm asking you questions, and I'd appreciate it if you would try to give me an honest answer.
Cherry's announcement that I had personally donated a kidney knocked that stone right out of Liam's hand. But he just reached down and grabbed another one. You see, when Cherry did speak up, all she said was that I had myself personally donated a kidney. That was the truth and the evidence that Liam didn't want anyone to hear. You see, who has ever heard of an organ trafficker donating their own organ? And so with that, this frail little 77-year-old woman flattened an expert in debate. And she did so because she had the goods, and Liam didn't.
Member of the Doomsday Cult, Children of God, back in the 70s.
Probably about 3 months in.
Think about it. 3 months membership in an organization almost 50 years ago. This is hardly news. But in a tight situation, you grab onto whatever stones are available, and a monstrous lie can turn a pebble into a boulder, like Liam is about to do here. Wait for it.
I noticed in a lot of the stories that were written about Children of God that the group likes to infiltrate churches, invade churches.
I think it did happen more in Berlin, but yeah, they definitely done that.
I wondered if you got that idea along the way. That's why you infiltrated Paul Mackenzie's church in Kenya.
Okay, so this is what it's all leading up to, is it? I infiltrated Paul Mackenzie's church.
Or did you?
Take notice that Liam started with a virtual accusation, an assumption that we had infiltrated Paul Mackenzie's church. He didn't just ask me if I had. He asked me why I had infiltrated Mackenzie's church. This seems to be a regular pattern with him. He'll start with an accusation and then pretend he was only asking whether such and such happened. When I demanded that he produce evidence for that most horrendous defamatory implication, Liam pretended he had never made such an assumption.
I think you need your evidence.
I'm asking you a question.
No, you didn't. You made a false assumption that became an accusation. And I'm putting you on the spot now.
Well,
You can't set the spotlight.
Okay,
Show me your evidence.
let me accuse you of being involved in Paul Mackenzie's church.
Did I hear that correctly? Did Liam just instruct me
Accuse you
to
of
let
being
him
involved.
falsely accuse me of something for which he does not have a shred of evidence? This demand that I let him accuse me becomes crucial to one of the most damning accusations that Channel 7 or any other channel has ever said about anybody. It is a superlative example of journalistic irresponsibility to accuse someone of having been responsible for the deaths of 400 people, more than 400 people. And this is his opening to a discussion which goes on to become one boulder after another. We're past stones and rocks now and into boulders with these horrendous lies.
Okay, show me your evidence.
All right, where do you want to start?
Full, anyway, you can start with the best evidence you've got.
All right.
A court of law requires evidence. But in trial by media, too often such details are overlooked, and a flood of angry voices screaming for blood. You turn to all the people behind you with your boulder in your hand and you say, hey, we don't need evidence. We've got boulders, and a lot of them. And then you start throwing.
It's not just us, you know that. There's been an investigation on the ground over there.
Okay.
Do you want to hear it?
Evidence. Okay, I don't want accusations, I want evidence.
A Kenyan Sound Committee,
Yeah,
12 members of the Kenyan Parliament,
yeah.
has found that both you and your wife, Cherry, influenced Paul Mackenzie. How did you do that?
How did they find that?
How did you do
They
that?
absolutely no evidence. I have never had anything to do with Paul Mackenzie. Not in person, not by phone, not by email, not any other way.
Nothing.
Nothing. Zilch.
Nor have I.
Liam Bartlett and Channel 7 were big on accusations, but when it came to providing evidence, they were weak as water. So once again, Liam ducks Cherry and my demand for evidence, and he tries another line of attack.
What was the name of your member of your Jesus Christian who preached at Paul Mackenzie's church?
Jude. What's your point? What's your point? What did you
What's
say?
my point?
The whole sermon has been recorded. It's not available on video. You listened to it.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you tell me what he said in that sermon.
I'll tell you what he said.
Yeah.
He told Mackenzie's followers
Yeah.
to, quote, follow Mackenzie to the promised land and
It's
abandon...
not in the video. He never said that. That's
Don't,
an absolute lie.
don't.
Now, this is a boulder that just might come crashing down on Liam's own head. Yet Liam, acting on behalf of producer Luke Mortimer, tells a lie here that can be irrefutably disproven. This is not some slip of the tongue. This is not something just taken out of context. This is not even a personal interpretation issue. Liam has just said that he watched the video. And he says that in that sermon, Jude told Mackenzie's followers, and he emphasizes it with quotes, that they should, quote, follow Mackenzie to the promised land.
He told Mackenzie's followers to, quote, follow Mackenzie to the promised land, quote, follow Mackenzie to the promised land.
The video of the sermon is available to any member of the public to watch. It's been sent to the media in Kenya. It's been sent to the Senate ad hoc committee that supposedly investigated the Jesus Christians, and it has been sent to sections of the media in other countries of the world as well. Nothing even close to what Liam claimed was said by Jude in that sermon appears in it. In fact, you want to hear what Jude actually said? He said, when we stand before God, listen to it, when we stand before God,
we will not be able to hide behind a church. We will not be able to hide behind a pastor or a pope or a preacher. We will all stand as an individual before God, and he will ask us, what have you done with the teachings of my son?
no mention of Mackenzie's name anywhere in that sermon, nor is there any mention of the so-called promised land that Mackenzie was going to offer his followers 4 years later. That quotation from Liam Bartlett is a total fabrication, every single word of it. It's the most transparent lie in the whole interview.
He told Mackenzie's followers to, quote, follow Mackenzie to the promised land.
That lie has formed the basis for virtually everything that Channel 7 has said against us. It's a complete fabrication. But instead of backing down when this is pointed out to Liam, he ends up taunting me. Now he knows that I could not afford representation in the defamation case against me. I was told by barristers everywhere I went, and even by one judge, that without legal representation, I had no chance. And they hadn't heard the facts of the case. It's just a reality in the court system. You don't let a self-represented litigant win a case.
This is defamation.
Did you know?
This is serious stuff. You can't
Take us
say
to court.
you're going right
Take
now.
us to court.
I mean,
So after taunting me with his presumed invincibility, Liam starts down a line of questioning, which could have actually ended in quite an interesting spotlight story. All they needed to do was to shine their spotlight on the source of that lie. And I think they would have had quite an interesting story. Now I'm going to say it right out here. I think I know who started that lie. I believe that lie started here in Australia by people who were saying much the same thing about the same time it turned up on Simon Mutiora's blog over there in Kenya. It would not be all that hard for a real journalist to go over there and question the Senate ad hoc committee on where they got their information from, and then question the blogger they got it from. You see, they quoted Simon Mutiora word for word. It's right there in their report and in the blog that Simon Mutiora put up. So Liam continues.
Last year, David.
I went to Kenya last year to track down Simon Mwangi with the guy who started this lie.
Well, the guy who got the information.
And to seek legal advice over there.
To seek legal advice, because you thought you might be in trouble.
If I thought I was in trouble, Liam, do you think I'd go to Kenya?
When did you go?
Last year.
Yeah.
Last year. We were there for about 3 weeks. We saw it. It was taken down since been picked up by other people.
Okay. Specifically for the purpose of telling Simon to take those things down. I had a lawyer write to him and he took them down.
That Kenyan subcommittee, Kenyan Parliamentary Committee, has recommended that you and your followers be expelled from Kenya and banned from ever again.
Yeah.
Why do you think they've said that?
The common Kenya, you blame foreigners if you have a problem.
So 12 members of the Kenyan Parliament just making it up, aren't
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you know so.
No,
They use
no, no.
word for word what Simon Wayne with the order put in his blog. And that is it, beginning and end of what they said. Nobody in the Kenyan media has picked it up because we wrote in terms and to produce the evidence. You know, I mean, politicians are they're pride like anybody else, and they don't want to say, okay, we did the wrong thing, but they stop.
It's a lie. Like, and we can actually demonstrate that it's a lie.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. You see such rubbish as this.
That's very interesting. Going up.
An ironic metaphor in a situation where Liam is the one who's doing the throwing. Whether it's mud or boulders, he's the one on attack. And more importantly, he's the one making up lies, as he does so again here.
You bring up all the Russians.
No, you're going to say it right.
So it's the Russian stereotypes about it. It's the corrupt like Parliament. Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
You
No.
using the
It's a
stereotype.
parliament
What
that
you say?
picked up.
What's the corrupt?
Parliament. It's a corrupt like Parliament. That's
Black.
what you're saying.
It's black.
Well, that's what you're saying. You
I didn't say
Countries like that. Countries like that.
You're doing what you accused me of. Okay?
Liam has invented another whopper that I have criticized the government in Kenya on the basis of their skin color. Just for your information, not everyone in the Senate in Kenya is black. It's like a mob that has just finished off a stoning and someone comes along to point out they got the wrong person. Well, they have to invent a new crime to justify the killing, don't they? So now the accusation is somehow that the Jesus Christians are racist.
Why don't you try
Why don't you try
to answer the question? So,
Why don't you try to ask a decent question?
all right, well, let's go through a few.
Yeah, let's try it.
Let's keep going. We're delivering a very similar message to Mackenzie. Mackenzie ends up being charged with
How is it a
428.
similar message to Mackenzie?
Is that just a coincidence?
How is
Mackenzie talks about Jesus, I talk about Jesus. Is that what you're saying? We're similar.
It's much
Mackenzie
closer.
talks about Jesus coming back, I talk about Jesus coming back. Is that similar?
Much closer than that.
What is
Can you tell me how close it got?
Hold on. Well, one of your videos,
Yeah,
one of your YouTube posts,
yeah.
now on BitChute, March of 2020, let me quote from that. Or whether we starve to death in a show of faith in God, starve to death, we must take a stand.
Liam apparently located the words starve to death in 2 of the many hundreds of videos that we've made. But he's so afraid that the viewers might discover the context that he doesn't even finish the sentences in which they appear. And he makes no mention of the name of the supposedly offensive videos.
You see, the mark of the beast will just be the final and ultimate fulfillment of what money has always been. That is, the devil's replacement for God. We need to resist this. We need to stand together, united in faith in God. Whether He miraculously keeps us alive without it, or whether we starve to death in a show of faith in God, we must take a stand. And when we do, the world will finally hear what God has been trying to get it to hear for 2,000 years. We who have put this video together have been living like this literally for decades. We refuse to serve money, and that includes working for it. We are servants of God and not of money. And so far, we can report that He has taken care of us.
They were references to what might happen in the coming Great Tribulation, just through circumstances, like has happened to many places around the world throughout history. But when that happens, it has nothing to do with someone deliberately starving themselves to death in order to supposedly see Jesus.
And the followers,
You don't like the context of what you're quoting.
you're recommending to followers that they should choose a painful and unheralded death.
No.
And
Just one more absolutely irrefutable lie. There is no evidence in the whole wide world that I have recommended that anyone choose a painful and unheralded death. I teach that people should choose to follow Jesus. Now, if we end up getting stoned or otherwise assassinated as a result of us following Jesus, then the guilt is on the person who does it, not on us.
Yes, it does. This is ridiculous what you do.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So it just so
You're
happens,
taking little phrases totally out of context. You're frightening the context. You can't even quote the whole sentence, can you?
it just so happens,
Because the context is totally opposite to what you're trying to say.
it just so happens
Yeah.
that you're sermonizing in exactly the same way, about exactly the same things.
No.
He's talking about exactly that. Starvation to meet Jesus, and it's just a coincidence, is it?
We've never said starvation to meet Jesus. That's
Starvation in Jesus, you admit. Maybe you're working with, maybe you're in with McKinsey.
Yes.
You're not using the same terms he uses.
Just die in the middle of me, I'm being persecuted because I'm a Christian. Is that the answer? I'm just a Christian and I'm being persecuted because I'm a Christian.
okay.
That's what it is. It's very convenient, isn't it?
No, what he was saying was, as Christians, we will be persecuted during the tribulation. The tribulation's not here, and we're not going to make ourselves die. If we're going to die, it will be someone else who does it to us, and that could be from withholding food. It could be from killing us. It could be from anything. But it's not us.
For you, Derek. Well,
yeah. But also, when people lie about us and they distort the facts to try to present a monster image of us, that is.
you've expressed sympathy for Servant Mackenzie publicly in a video you posted in 2019.
Yeah. 4 years before.
Claiming
19.
This
Don't
is-
check a hole.
Yeah, this is a guy you told me.
Let's
I mean,
do that.
you said, no, I have nothing to do with him. I know him, Liam.
No, they never said he didn't know
I
about
didn't say
it.
that. I didn't say I know about him. Okay, I have no personal contact. Go back and
No personal contact.
Yeah. You're inspectors. You apparently have trouble with that.
How's that made you tell?
Is he listening to this kind of stuff?
We have a
Where did you pick
meeting.
that up from?
We have.
And there's video evidence to show that Kenyans might have to starve themselves to death.
Now take note that Liam again says that I preach that Kenyans might have to starve themselves to death. Starve themselves? What I've been recorded as saying, and what anyone can check out for themselves, is that Christians, and yes, that does include Kenyan Christians,
Alive without him,
might
or whether we
starve
to death
if they
in a
refuse
show
to
of
take
faith in
the
God,
mark of the beast.
we
Full
must.
stop. There's a whole world of difference between starving because of unfortunate circumstances and starving yourself to death.
You sermonise about the end of times. You sermonise about the end of times. And guess what, though? Guess what? Paul Mackenzie has 428 followers who do starve to death, including 100 children, in order to meet Jesus before the end of the world. And that's just an incredible coincidence, isn't it?
The incredible reason that I preach sermons about the end of times. How many other pastors in the world have preached a sermon about the end of times?
And
That's incredible.
talking about starving to death.
Excuse me. The starving to death, you quoted us as saying,
Why don't
they
you
was saying
Why don't you address the question?
Why don't you be polite to my wife?
Why don't you address the
Why don't
question?
you just shut up and reflect and let my wife speak?
you
Why don't
say,
you address
Stop
the
behaving the way you're behaving.
Well,
It's
just
got nothing to do with my behaviour. It's all about your accountability.
You know,
You're very happy to let these two interrupt because it takes the pressure off you, though.
yeah, because it's ridiculous what you guys are doing. Seriously,
It's a joke.
said you have to starve yourselves to death.
that's right.
We said you may starve to death.
You may
There's
starve
a
to death.
difference. There's
Oh,
a difference.
I see, sorry. But you went, oh, it just so
There's
happens.
nothing about us.
Here's another
There's nothing about starving to meet Jesus.
If you'll be quiet, there's something interrupting you.
Well,
Here's another incredible
interrupting yourself, yeah. Okay.
It's not interrupting that bothered Liam here. It's the truth that bothered him. He was literally frightened of a handicapped 77-year-old lady who's never been known to be a public speaker in all her life because this frail woman spoke the truth. She could see through his unscrupulous lies, and she was able to verbally knock him right out, flat on his backside, with a very simple truth.
After your church becomes involved with Paul Mackenzie, he just happens to relocate to a remote location.
So
Takes
we have
your playbook, takes your label and renames this church, renames, I believe you are true,
I can't believe it.
428.
That's a lie. You're doing, man.
428 people did.
Yeah.
Why?
Mackenzie's
That is,
teaching was that they had to die before Jesus returned and be in a particular place. We have never said that. We've never said that.
That is disgraceful.
It's
No, I'm serious, I'm serious.
No,
you are.
Okay, you're an actor. Okay, this is.
That's the way the whole thing.
There's no connection.
You're going to be implicated. Why would you do it?
It was to take down a post that was defaming us, from where apparently you got your information.
I
Yeah.
don't think so. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Really? Yeah, that's pretty good. England?
Yeah, he's not interested in.
Dave,
It's not.
in what year were the three
I see
Kenyan
you.
adopted? Dave, in what year did you adopt the three Kenyan children? Dave? Does your daughter have court papers for that?
10 years before Shakahola.
Does your daughter have official court papers for those three children? Have they been adopted legally? Have they been adopted legally?
It's just typical.
No, it's not typical. I just want some answers.
Well, it hardly needs to be said that Tina's kids have been legally adopted. It's just one more good action by sincere Christians that has been turned into a lie by evil media and used against us as a vile insinuation. As I said earlier, walking away is about the only thing you can do in a situation like this. Of course, the fact that we managed to film it has given us an opportunity to do what we've done in this video, to show you the context. Think about this the next time you see Spotlight or any other section of the media using that same tactic on other unsuspecting interviewees. Now, it's very likely that a lot of them, if not most of them, will be guilty. But you know, it's against the law to lynch somebody even if they're guilty. There are ethical ways of dealing with it, and it all revolves around evidence. It revolves around truth. We have another video, which is a much better recording of a second interview that Liam did with Felipe and with Jude, the guy who preached the sermon. You really want to see this one because I tell you what, there's a different walkout at the end of this one. You wouldn't believe it. Liam walks out. He turns the camera off because he can't handle what the two of them had to say to him. Please watch it, and I think you'll be quite impressed. Friends, I'd like to ask each of you to make a copy of this video and a copy of the other one I just mentioned, the second interview, and show them to your friends. Put it up on all your channels, and do it as quickly as you can, because I know that Channel 7 is going to be very upset about this, and they're going to try everything they can to get it taken down. They will undoubtedly do all they can to silence us and to aim their next few stones right at our own figurative spotlight here. So let's just be one step ahead of them. Thank you for listening, and God bless you. Oh, and please feel free to comment below. Thank you.